All right, current status of Lewis Boat Works. Things warming up here, so we're ready to start doing some little paint and fiberglass repair. Got the projects left from the end of last year. Got some chocks to paint, and we got a little piece of lumber out of the yard. Came off of one of the trees that had to have some limbs trimmed. Not sure what kind of wood this even is. Possibly pin oak, possibly something else. But we took a branch about 16 inches long, about 3 inches diameter, and made it square, and then cut it into some strips. And these have been drying. Put some weight on them to try to keep them straight. Yeah, we don't know what we'll do with them, but we just wanted to see if we could take some timber and turn it into lumber. Turns out we could. We had to use, where's it at? It's over here. Our little planer to make it square, and that took 100 passes and made a bunch of sawdust. So we don't know. Maybe we'll make maybe we'll take these pieces, make a little shelf or something out of it. But it was an interesting experiment. Like I say, I have no idea what type of wood this is. So if somebody sees it, can identify it for us, tell me, oh, that's skin rash wood. Don't handle that. Something, whatever it happens to be. We got about 4 or 5 little pieces like this out of the whole affair, the whole evolution. And really makes you appreciate going to the local lumber store and picking something up that's already cut down, like these 1x12 pieces of pine that are laying underneath the boat here. For a project that we thought we'd get done over the winter, hasn't happened yet. So this project here, our Penobscot 14 St. Jacques. I've already talked about a little bit of it, but I had some rash from a hurricane down in Florida where it rubbed up against other boats or dollies, trailers, etc. Plus there's just one coat of paint on here, I think is all we did when we finished this boat back in 2017. So what we did do was there's a good chunk taken out of the gunnel up here, and we put a little Dutchman repair in here, and that's all smoothed and sanded and ready to go. So it just needs a varnish. We'll probably wait till after we do the painting, which I think in order to do that, I think I want to turn the boat upside down so I can get to everything in one pass instead of having to try to crawl under the trailer and work around bunks and rollers, etc. Another little bit of rash here. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna clean it up, obviously, and possibly graft in a little piece of wood, or maybe I'll just put a little blob of epoxy on here and then come back and sand it and ferret and get these grooves back, and just shape it, because it's going to be painted. So who cares if it's wood or not at that point. And there's one more little chunk on the stern, and one little bit where it's rubbed up here. I think that's just going to get smoothed down, and that's just going to be part of the boat. You know, we said when we did it, we kind of going for a workboat finish. We're not really planning on entering any kind of boat shows, or if we do, it'll be for a fan favorite. But when we built it, we had things on it, like there was a big knot here. This is from when we built it. We just cut it out and grafted in a new piece, because that's the lumber we had at the time, so that's what we used. Here's see this, I think we did this side first with this cap rail. Made a nice little bird's mouth joint there. And that was a lot of work to do that. That probably got cut a few times. And then we came down here, I did what I call my faux bird's mouth. I just took an X-Acto knife and cut that little triangle, but it was just a butt joint. Made a little triangle, so maybe from a galloping horse you look at it and you go, wow, that's a nice bird's mouth. And if you look closer, it's like, oh, it's not really a bird's mouth. Just like this one back here, the same way. But it's held up pretty good, coming up on almost 6 years of this coat of Total Boat Gleam varnish. And you can see where some of the epoxy, or maybe it's some old varnish bleeding through. This color is Rust-Oleum topside marine paint, a oyster white, which we like the color, but the paint, even though it's one coat, so considering Florida sun, hurricanes, etc., it's held up pretty well. It hasn't held up as nice as the Pettit Easy Epoxy on the side, which is a seafoam green. And then back here we got a few more rubs where this was rubbing against one of the posts in our sunfish shack during Hurricane Sally. But all in all, this wooden boat, it held up to the bashing and banging during the hurricane. Enough water came in to the sunfish shack that the boats, all the boats that were in there, floated off their dollies, and wave action coming off of the bay. All the boats were tied to post, but then they started banging into a post or rubbing on their dollies, and that's what caused the damage. I guess your other options to let them float away, and maybe you find them later. That happened to a friend of ours. Had a beautiful, absolutely beautiful Penobscot 14, an award winner from the Madisonville Boat Show called Deja Vu. It was a finished bright on the inside. The entire inside was finished bright. Fred's a cabinet maker, and took some of his ideas, incorporated them into this boat, except we went for a combination of paint and varnish finish. One of his ideas was taking the slats, putting slats in the seats, and then curving those to match the side instead of just a flat piece of plywood. So just pan around a little bit, get you an idea, some ideas for finish. You've got cypress on the gunnels and the seats, and we really like the finish and the stain and how it's turned out. Seat's got a little small little chamfer along the bottom edge, also a little cove cut into it to make it look just a little bit not quite as thick as it is. And then in the back, you can kind of see it under the boat hooks and oars. We've got slats that are curved to follow the curve of the side of the plans, and we see other boats where it's just cut straight. And our preference, and kind of following Fred's lead, was to put that curve into it. So it's been around for folks that are more interested in shop work. What we do, here's our paint corner down here. Got this nice little DeWalt table saw that on a folding stand. That's been great. Highly recommended if you're looking for a way to get your table saw outside and not fill your shop up with sawdust. Little Chicago Electric beveling miter saw has been working good for us. Little drill press we picked up off of Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, Facelist, whichever ones those are called. And hiding behind the boats, a little bandsaw, little 10-inch throat on the bandsaw. This corner over here is kind of our fasteners and our drills, sockets, a little hardware kit in the tackle box there. And as you've seen in other videos where we like to, where the crew likes to hang out. This shed's a 12 by 20. Came pre-built. It's a barn style roof, which is what we could get at the time and what we like. And it's been working out pretty good. But what I did find out, it came with these two lofts, one on either end. We took the one out behind us to put in the French door. And try not to store too much stuff up high because it's just heavy. You got to get on a ladder, etc., to get up there and get it. So down the road, this will probably be cut back a little bit because it's not really big enough to store sheet goods or those kind of things. So it could be half the size that it is. I think it comes out about 4 feet. Starting on this corner over here is our what I call the design corner. It's got patterns and paperwork. And then it just kind of flows around the shop into where we keep our workbench, which always has stuff piled on it. So there's not a whole lot of work that gets done on it, but it makes a good shelf. And it rolls. And our cordless tools. Another thing we did with our shed was we put in these windows. So we have plenty of light coming in because there's basically zero light in here without them, except for one small door on the end. And we'll finish panning back around here to the French doors we added on the end for a couple of reasons. We wanted to be able to roll things through the shop out onto the, hey, there I am, onto the work deck behind us. These doors are normal people height to get in without having to duck and possibly bash your head. And you can see how taking that little loft shelf out of the end here just opened up a lot of space. But for those thinking about buying a pre-built shed, I would look into, take good consideration. The walls only go up to 6 feet before they start angling in on the, for the gabled barn type ends. So you lose a little bit of space there. So if you're someone that is taller and likes to store things up high, then I'd recommend looking at the sheds that have the 8-foot walls so you don't have that little angle there. But we have found that putting the shelf up just over 6 feet makes a handy height to reach up and grab a few things along the edge. If it goes any higher than that, then you're talking about getting a stool or a ladder to get up to whatever is stored up there. And we found there's not a ton of lightweight items that can be stored up there. It starts turning into heavy stuff, and then you're just messing with getting that. Take a tour outside, see what else is going on. So the other shed, well, it's the same thing. It's the barn style, but it has a regular garage door. I think it's 9 feet, I believe. So we can roll a boat on a trailer inside, full size, well, at least a 15-foot boat on its trailer in there, and then have all the wall space around the edges to store different things, or to put wooden boats on their side. Little smaller sailing dinghies like our sunfish and sailfish are in there, and our little punt. You see the yard's starting to come back in after the winter, and after all the work we had done last year, bringing in dirt, putting in sprinklers, etc. Wisteria is starting to bloom. Grapes are coming in. We thought we'd be sitting here on this wheel deck, we call it, for medicine wheel, quite a bit. That we found that once it started warming up, you got nothing but full sunshine in this part of the yard, which would be great in the winter, but not so good once it gets warm. There's our tiny little grapes making their appearance. And here's the project we need to get to next. We started it right about the time it was getting too cold to do epoxy, is Smedley. We got these 2 holes here that need to be fixed up, but hadn't been bad. Smedley's been sitting here. Just any kind of moisture that was inside is kind of condensing and drying up. So fix those 2 holes, fiberglass work. We've got some straps that are supposed to go on the bottom. There's a strap remnant there. Here's one. right here. And you know, for just some fun trivia, these are capsize recovery straps. So if your boat's upside down in the water, you pick a side and you're supposed to, like for this strap, you would grab the other side. You put your feet on the edge of the hole and you start pulling, and between your body weight pulling on this strap should help turn the boat right side up. So it's got a strap for either side. That one comes across and the end of it snaps onto this snap. I think, or no, actually it may come all the way over here to this snap, and this one goes across to that far snap over there. And I think all that really is just something to keep you busy until some good Samaritan shows up in their powerboat and takes you to shore, and you let the sea tow people come get your boat and bring it back to you. There's Smedley's mast. And then let's see which other members of the motley crew are out here right now. Sunfish Shack, we've got our little nutshell pram that we finished September of last year, I think, with sea trials for a little boat called Excuse Me. I thought I'd leave it out here for a couple of months with no cover on it and see how much junk gets in it. Because I was too lazy to go find a little cover. So it's got some leaves and it's all full of pollen and dirt, needs to be rinsed out. But your other sunfish, or some of them, a couple of them are snug under their cover, so they won't need any cleanup. And then a little, there's a Phoenix here in the middle with Madison hanging in the straps above, and Wave right there. We pulled Wave out to do some work on some trim. Got overtaken by Christmas and New Year's and a few other events, and now here it is, April. So Wave needs a bath now, and Scout needs a bath, but Scout's used to being out in the weather all the time. Aluminum canoe, you lean it up against a tree, take it out when you need to use it. But we do like to keep a cover over the top to keep all of the bigger chunks and the bird poop and leaves, etc., the bulk of them off of there. So our little dolly fleet standing by. And discussions, plans are in progress to probably duplicate this Sunfish Shack and put another 2-stalled 16 by 16 shack there, and that will be a place for a Smedley to stay. We can move little nutshell pram. We'll probably go back into the workshop and maybe, you know, store it on its side or on the dolly. It takes seconds to roll it out and move the take the sunfish off of these lines that it's hanging from, and have 3 sunfish over here, and then the shack next to it have the catfish and the Penobscot, and maybe room for the canoe Scout to be underneath it. Here's the project that took a lot of our time last year, and a lot of other people's time and a lot of our money, but it was well worth it. It's our little conservation area. It's got a nice little trail through it. We've mulched the trail, and then the rest of it, a lot of the volunteer type of trees were trimmed down. So we pruned down and then limbed up so we get a nice view back through there, and squirrels come by and entertain us whenever we bring peanuts with us. And in fact, there's one of our little buddies right now. So I know a lot of folks out there aren't fans of squirrels, but you know, if you make a place for them to stay, they usually leave your stuff alone. Which, speaking of which, in the boats, when we're storing boats, we don't leave the sails on the boat, especially in a space where or a spot where a squirrel could get into them and decide they want to make a nest or store all their peanuts. So come around to the back here. We've got the work deck we're talking about, and our design thinking on this was we bring something in off the driveway, and as long as it's under 6 feet wide, we can roll it in the shop working on it, and then keep rolling it right out the back, another 12 by 20 deck behind here to work on it. And if we ever need to move something bigger on, we do have some ramps that we can lay on the end there, made out of 2 by 12s to roll things up onto it. So that's kind of the state of affairs on the Lewis Boat Works and Hire Garage and Sunfish Shack. And one last little storage area. Actually, there's a couple more. There's one in the garage. Is our little back deck here, which turns out we don't use it much. We like to come out, sit under the tree canopy or closer to the trees, but it makes a good spot out of the mud to store the day sailor. So I hope y'all are doing good and having a nice spring, and that'll about do it.